episode 3 in this series of videos to help support you with your marathon training journey. This session is going to be based on recovery, and whilst potentially the shortest video of all of this series, I would say it was the most important. When you're training, you're subjecting the body to a host of stressors. What we're expecting is after that training session that the body will go through a process of adaptation so that when you apply that same stress again, it can cope with it much better. In order for it to go through that period of adaptation, you need to give it the opportunity to recover. If you get adequate recovery, you're likely to experience growth and improvement in your performance and improvement in your training. If you have inadequate recovery, you're going to experience fatigue. It's well worth looking up the symptoms of fatigue to actually stay in tune with your body to understand if lack of recovery could be a factor in how you're feeling or a lack of improvement in performance. I'm going to cover 6 factors within this video that hopefully you'll be able to take something away from and implement into your training straight away. The first of those things is, do you have recovery planned into your session? Into your training plan. That might be, for some people, do a 4-week block and have a week's recovery. It might be a 6-week block and have a week's recovery. But you should have recovery planned into your long-term training plan. Blocks of training segmented by recovery weeks. Have a look at your training plan. Does it have those? Start factoring those in. It's very personal, so there isn't necessarily always a set plan that you should be following. I know some clients that I work with like to plan their recovery sessions around their menstrual cycle because of how you actually are feeling during those weeks. Getting the most out of your performance, out of your training sessions, means you needing to plan around that. Perhaps you need to plan around work stresses as well, times where you're going to be away. Be flexible with your training plan, but still make it a plan and look ahead. The next thing, so point 2, is just general day-to-day rest and recovery. Are you doing something within each day that just allows you both physical and mental downtime? And if not, see if there's a time where you can just put a short amount of time in, something that you enjoy, but it's not stressing you physically and it's not stressing you mentally. The third thing is active recovery. Perhaps it could be going for a light swim, going for a walk with friends, taking the dog out for a walk. Get the body moving. If you enjoy doing yoga, do some really light yoga, something like that, to get the body moving. So sometimes that's delayed onset muscle soreness, that stiffness that we can feel, can actually be eradicated quite quickly just with a little bit of active recovery. 4, definitely the most important of all of these points is your sleep. We should be looking at around 7 to 9 hours of sleep in a night. That's fairly well documented, but a lot of research suggests that athletes require 9 to 10 hours. The level of training which you're doing now, don't underestimate the stresses that takes on your body. And I would put you definitely, with these kinds of distances, be putting you into that athlete training category of 9 to 10 hours. Research has shown that extending sleep time has a really positive effect on performance. In order to extend that sleep quantity as well as quality, the biggest thing I think to focus on is what we refer to as sleep hygiene. So that's focusing on when your caffeine intake is, ideally looking at 6 hours before bedtime as being like your last caffeine intake. The stimulation of looking at screens, so blue light on the mobile phone, but even the mental stimulation of that, watching television close to bedtime, eating too close to bedtime, all of those factors have an impact on how quickly you fall asleep, but also the quality of the sleep that you go into. I would also say you want to be looking at setting up a dark room, making sure that it's a cool room and you're not too hot in there to get really good quality sleep. If you're someone that has the capacity for a daytime nap, making that nap quite short, 30 minutes at the most, and not too late into the afternoon. A big part of your sleep will be around hydration, so making sure that you're maintaining your level of hydration throughout the day. Which leads us on to my 5th point, which is about nutrition. I'm not going to claim that this is an area that I have a huge amount of expertise. I'm not a nutritionalist. You can get much better information on blogs and things from qualified nutritionists or dietitians. However, ensuring that you have a balanced diet with all of the necessary macros in it for your body weight is quite important, but also looking at your recovery post-training sessions. Usually aiming for taking on some recovery foods in the first 90 minutes within the 90 minutes after a run, and making that carbohydrate, protein, fluid and electrolyte based. So something like a fruit smoothie, muesli with fruit and yogurt on top, absolutely ticks those boxes. So ensuring that you have a grip on your nutrition, obviously very important. And lastly, point 6. Point 6 is to say, please prioritise points 1 to 5 before you move on to other methods of recovery that are quite well publicised, but perhaps don't bring you, or certainly do not bring you, the benefits that points 1 to 5 make. I'm talking things like massage, cold water immersion, compression garments. So to recap, if you feel that recovery is adequately planned into your long-term plan, if on a day-to-day basis you're getting good active recovery and rest on a day-to-day basis, if your sleep is of good quality and a good length, and you're waking up in the morning, not after the first 30 minutes waking up, you're not feeling extremely fatigued, and your nutrition is working out well for you, for your recovery, then it's useful to look into things like massage. So massage is great at increasing blood flow. It has similar effects to an active recovery session. It also brings you some mental downtime as well. And it's also a really good time to chat to a practitioner about how you're currently feeling, any niggles that come up, so that they can be addressed quite quickly. But I wouldn't prioritise that above those first 5 points. Cold water immersion is something to be very careful with. Research actually suggests that it can have a negative impact upon recovery and adaptation. So it takes away that response, that inflammatory response that is a natural part of training, and prevents you from adapting quite as efficiently to that session. Similarly with compression garments, that can be quite expensive, and really with all of those things you are looking at lower percentages, and actually if you haven't got those first 5 points nailed, they aren't going to bring you really many benefits at all. As always, if you would like to drop me a message on Facebook, Instagram, or I have my email address on this video as well, so drop me a message, ask any questions, I'm more than happy to answer. I look forward to seeing you for episode 4.